it's a sticky wicket to begin with for the government. A plan which was always not sound in the law, had to run through courts. This is despite Suella Braverman being a barrister herself, appearing before judges in her career, having barristers as colleagues, judges as colleagues, not getting this right. And the fact is, it was a sticky wicket. Many commentators said, look, it isn't going to work. It's for optics. When we've discussed this before, essentially, you've only got space for about 500 people. Out of that, you might have to take 200 Rwandans on in a quid pro quo scheme. So what are we actually achieving here? Is it a deterrent? Will a flight, essentially one flight, can fill all the spaces? Will that deter anybody? How is sending 500 people going to deter the other 49,500 that are crossing in a year? Where are we going to put them? We don't have the money for it. Essentially, it didn't look good. Even if it managed to get through, it would have been for optics. It could never been delivered. And now it looks like in her resignation letter, she's trying to cover all bases, saying, well, even if we win, we can't enforce it. And if we lose, then it's all your fault. It's almost the blame is entirely on Rishi Sunak, and she's not taking any responsibility for essentially something she has tried to push through.
Okay, you've given your verdict on the politics of this Rwanda policy. Obviously, you're dedicated to it. You don't like it one little bit, and you've made that view of yours clear. But on the legalities of this, if as we're hearing from Kate McCann, if the Supreme Court, as the government seems to anticipate and expect, if they say, look, the guarantees to deportees need to be strengthened, can that be done? I mean, and would that be in the government's hands? Would the Supreme Court's handling of this matter be at an end?
Well, what the Supreme Court will probably say, and if they do say it tomorrow, if the judgment goes against the government, is the fact that just by Rwandan government saying, OK, they will be safe, is not enough. They want more than words.
But this is the Supreme Court judgment. You don't go beyond that in British law, do you?
Yeah, I mean, so the fact is that the Rwandan government, until they prove that actually it's 100% safe and they won't send people on or back or endanger people, then there's no way to get round the judgment.
No, but prove to who? If the Supreme Court demands, if the Supreme Court demands further assurances on the welfare of deportees, that's their judgment.
Yeah.
It's the end of the process for the Supreme Court. There's no going back to try and get there.
The process starts again. So the policy will have to be tweaked again. Will have to be run through Parliament again. Will have to be run through the courts again, and it will probably be challenged again. So this whole process starts again, which just gets, like I said earlier, 140 million so far we've given to Rwandan government. There's more Home Secretaries have gone to Rwanda than actual refugees.
So I want to be clear about the legal situation.
Yeah, no, let's clear.
I mean, my impression would be that the Supreme Court will have their final say tomorrow.
Yes.
Right, so there's no question of going back to them with a revised case and saying, can you approve this one?
Well, no, they will not consider, they will say, tweak your policy, try and run it through again. And let's see what happens. You can't just say to the Supreme Court, OK, all right, well, here we go. Here's another plan. Now approve it, rubber stamp it. They're not there to rubber stamp stuff. They're to tell you, is your plan legal or not legal? Okay. Is it lawful or is it not lawful? Can you run it through without breaking the law?
I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves because we haven't had the judgment.
We haven't had a judgment
yet. No. We'll look at the fine print when that time comes. But meanwhile, on the face of what we see so far, the European Court of Justice, even if the Supreme Court says go ahead, even if it says thumbs up, you can take off.
Yeah.
It's right, isn't it? The European Court of Justice, sorry, the European Human Rights Court can issue another injunction and say you cannot take off. That is possible.
Yes, that is possible.
But the legislation of the government, doesn't it give the government power to ignore these injunctions? Am I wrong about that?
Yeah, I mean, it acts as guidance as opposed to actually law binding, and the government can say, well, hold on, or we can tweak this to go around your injunction, or your injunction,
and then the plane takes off.
Yeah, and then the plane takes off, and then once the plane takes off and the migrants get there, then of course they'll be monitored to see, well, are they being treated fairly, and if there is a boo-boo, or say something goes wrong on that, then there could be compensation claims. We'll have to bring them back. Well, there'll be reparations to pay on compensation claims. There'll be multi-millions to hand out, and people will lose their jobs over